Let's get this straight. Discipline isn't some genetic gift reserved for a lucky few. It's not about being born with superhuman willpower or living a robotic life without fun. Discipline is a decision. It's trained. It's built. It's forged in the fire of daily habits, consistency, and choice. The top 1% don't wake up every day wanting to be disciplined. They've just created a life where being disciplined is the path of least resistance. They don't wait for motivation. They don't negotiate with laziness. They have engineered a structure so solid, so embedded into their identity, that showing up and executing becomes automatic. Let me walk you through the 7 daily practices that the highest performers live by, not occasionally, but every single day. Most people believe that discipline is some rare personality trait. You either have it or you don't. That it's something the successful are born with, while the rest of us are left to struggle. But that belief is one of the biggest lies holding people back. Discipline is not a trait. It's a skill. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it has to be trained, broken down, pushed through resistance, and built through repetition. The people you admire are the ones who get up early, hit the gym, build empires, write books, stay consistent. They weren't born with some secret code. They simply built it, one uncomfortable decision at a time, and the truth is, everyone starts weak. No one begins with a strong discipline muscle. At the beginning, it's hard to say no to comfort. It's painful to delay gratification. Every time you make a decision that goes against your feelings and aligns with your vision, you gain an inch. Every time you choose progress over pleasure, you grow. Discipline gets stronger not by thinking about it, but by living it daily, consistently, even when you don't feel like it. This is where most people fail. They wait for the feeling to act. They believe they have to feel ready to be disciplined. But if you only act when it's convenient or comfortable, you'll never build anything worth having. Discipline doesn't ask for your emotions. It demands your commitment, and commitment isn't a mood. It's a decision. A real decision. The kind that burns the boats and moves forward with no exit strategy. It says, I will follow through no matter what. That's where the training begins. Not in motivation, but in movement. In doing the thing when you're tired. In choosing the workout instead of the snooze button. In writing the page even when your mind is blank. It's in showing up when nobody's watching, when no one will clap, when there's no trophy waiting for you at the end of the day. That's where real discipline is born. The world will sell you hacks, shortcuts, and 3-step secrets. But the truth doesn't need to be dressed up. Discipline is repetition. It's choosing the difficult path over the easy one again and again. It's rejecting the immediate for the ultimate. You want strength. Do hard things consistently. You want to lead? Start leading yourself. You want to grow? Get uncomfortable every single day, because the muscle of discipline only responds to tension. And most people avoid that tension like it's a curse. They say, not wired that way, or I've never been a disciplined person. But that's like someone saying they've never lifted weights and wondering why they have no strength. You haven't trained. You haven't pushed yourself past your threshold. The moment you do, the muscle starts to wake up. The moment you act differently than your old story, you begin to rewrite it. Don't believe for a second that the discipline enjoy the grind every time. They've just built a different relationship with pain. They've learned to lean into it, not run from it. They understand that growth lives on the other side of discomfort, and they train for that. They don't get strong by chance, they get strong by choice. Daily, deliberate choice. When you see someone disciplined, you're looking at someone who's practiced honor in their word to themselves. That's it. They've learned to trust themselves. Trust, like discipline, is earned in the trenches of consistency. You want to build that same level of trust with yourself? Start small, but start. Keep a promise to yourself today. Wake up on time. Finish the task. Avoid the distraction. Choose the hard over the easy just once, then again tomorrow. Don't aim for perfection, aim for consistency, because you won't wake up one day suddenly disciplined. You'll become it through the fire of doing what most won't. 1 rep at a time, hour at a time, 1 choice at a time. You'll fall, but you'll stand again. You'll slip, but you'll correct course. And every time you get back up, your discipline muscle grows a little stronger. That's how you build it. Not overnight, over time. And in that process, something incredible happens. Discipline becomes identity. It stops being a thing you do and starts becoming who you are. That's when everything shifts. Because now, even when life gets chaotic, your core stays solid. The world may shake, but your habits hold, because you've built from the inside out. And that kind of strength, that's unshakable, that's earned, that's yours. When you look at the top 1%, the peak performers, the elite thinkers, the people who seem to execute no matter what, you'll notice something different about the way they approach their day. They don't leave their actions to emotion. They've outgrown the idea that how they feel determines what they do. Instead, they've built systems, reliable, repeatable systems that move them forward regardless of their mood, motivation, or circumstances. They've realized that if they had to rely on inspiration every morning, they'd never hit their targets. Emotion is a roller coaster. It's inconsistent, unpredictable, and easily influenced by fatigue, failure, distraction, or even the weather. Systems, on the other hand, are stable. Systems don't care whether you're excited or exhausted. They simply work when you work them. That's the difference between the average and the elite. Most people run their life based on feelings. I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like writing today. I'm just not in the mood to push myself. And guess what? Those feelings create their results. Inconsistency, frustration. Self-doubt. But the top 1%, they feel the same resistance. They just don't negotiate with it. They have systems that eliminate the need for internal debate. It's not about motivation, it's about automation. The gym is scheduled. The diet is planned. The morning routine is locked in. The deep work sessions are blocked out. There's no space left for excuses because the structure already decided the action. And here's where the real power lies. Systems create freedom. It sounds backward, but it's true. Everything has a place. When time has a job, when your day is architected with intention, you no longer waste energy deciding what to do next. Decision fatigue disappears. Your brain is no longer hijacked by impulses or distractions. Become dangerous because your actions are predictable to you even when your emotions are not. And that level of reliability builds massive confidence. Think about a pilot flying through turbulence. Do they panic? Do they freeze or start guessing? No. They follow protocol, they engage the systems, their training takes over. And that's how they stay calm and navigate the storm. Life will bring you storms. Discipline isn't about feeling unshakable all the time. It's about building the internal systems so strong that when things get chaotic, your actions don't break. They're bulletproof. You show up anyway, you execute anyway, you keep the promises you made to yourself, even when your mood is screaming for comfort. The top 1% design systems that force behavior. They don't rely on inspiration, they rely on identity and automation. If you identify as a disciplined person, then your system supports that identity. If you see yourself as a peak performer, your system reflects that belief. Because systems are the bridge between who you are now and who you're becoming. You can't just think your way into a better life, you systematize your way into it. Now, don't confuse systems with complexity. This isn't about building a military level schedule with no breathing room. It's about reducing friction. If your goal is to write a book, your system might be 1 hour every morning, your phone on airplane mode, and you're writing Space Clean the night before. If your goal is to get in shape, your system might be meal prepping every Sunday and scheduling your workouts in your calendar like meetings. Simple systems, zero emotion, high consistency. And when you mess up, you don't start over, you return to the system. Because the system isn't about being perfect. It's about being aligned. The elite have trained themselves to trust their systems more than their feelings. They understand that mood swings, fatigue, doubt, and fear are part of the human experience, but they don't let those things steer the wheel. The system drives the vehicle, and they stay the course. That's why they're consistent. That's why they're productive. That's why, even when it looks like they're coasting, they're still making progress. So if you're serious about building discipline like the top 1%, stop chasing motivation and start building systems. Break your goals into actions, turn those actions into routines, and let the routines run on autopilot. Your energy is limited, your willpower is temporary, but your systems, if you build them right, they can carry you when your strength fades. That's the edge. That's the cheat code. That's the mindset shift that turns ordinary into extraordinary. The biggest mistake people make when trying to change their life is thinking they need to do something massive to move forward. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions to make a grand gesture. But the truth is, greatness isn't built on massive effort. It's built on small, consistent daily wins. The top 1% understand something most people ignore. Momentum isn't created by occasional intensity. It's created by daily consistency. Tiny actions with intention, repeated over time. Those are what shape character, build habits, and create unstoppable force. That's the game. And most people miss it because it doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks, but it works. Because momentum isn't a feeling, it's a rhythm. And rhythm starts with one step. Think about it. When you're stuck in a rut, the hardest part is starting. It's not the big project that breaks you. It's the emotional weight of inertia. You've been still for so long that movement feels overwhelming. But if you can win a single moment, get out of bed when it's hard, drink water instead of soda, choose the workout over the couch, make the call you've been avoiding, you begin to crack that inertia. One win leads to another. And slowly you shift from stuck to moving. From moving to building, from building to accelerating. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing something, then repeating it. The discipline don't rely on intensity, they rely on traction. They don't try to crush 12 tasks in one day and then crash for the next 5. They focus on what matters most, and they win small consistently. That consistency turns into confidence. That confidence becomes identity. And once something becomes part of your identity, it stops being something you try to do and starts becoming who you are. That's when everything changes. Because now the action isn't a chore, it's a reflection of you. You don't just go to the gym. You are someone who trains. You don't just manage your time. You are someone who respects your schedule. You don't just eat clean. You are someone who fuels their body with intention. All of that begins with micro wins. You don't need to run a marathon today. You just need to put your shoes on and get out the door. You don't need to meditate for an hour. Just take 5 minutes and breathe. You don't need to overhaul your diet. Start with one clean meal. You don't need to finish the book. Just read one page. These small steps may feel insignificant, but they're not. They're deposits. Each one adds to your bank of momentum. And over time, that compound interest explodes. That's how the 1% win. Not through magic or luck, but through compound action. through, showing up on the days it doesn't seem to matter, because they know those are the days that matter most. The secret is to build streaks. One day becomes two becomes a week becomes a month. That streak creates emotional leverage. You don't want to break it because now you have something to protect, something to grow, something you've earned. And that sense of progress is fuel. Progress is the ultimate motivator. You feel yourself moving forward, even slowly. You want to keep going. When you see that you're showing up for yourself, you begin to trust yourself. And that trust is everything. Because once you believe you can rely on you, you become unstoppable. The best part, micro wins are within your control. No one can stop you from drinking water. No one can stop you from writing 10 lines. No one can stop you from stretching for 5 minutes. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You need is a reason and a willingness to act on it. You stack one win, then another, and soon your days are defined not by overwhelm, but by progress. You don't need to conquer the whole mountain today. Just take one solid step. Plant your flag, lock in the win, and do it again tomorrow. That's how momentum is built, not by waiting, not by dreaming, but by acting daily, consistently, and intentionally. Small wins create big shifts because they prove to your mind that change is happening, that growth is in motion, that you're no longer just thinking about change, you're living it. And when you live that truth daily, life you once thought was out of reach becomes your new standard. One win at a time. There's a deep connection most people never make. The link between discipline and self-respect. Everyone talks about motivation, accountability, and time management. What really drives long-term discipline is how much respect you have for yourself. Because if you don't respect yourself, you won't hold yourself to any meaningful standard. You'll break your promises. You'll procrastinate. You'll let yourself off the hook again and again, and you'll always wonder why you can't stay consistent. But when you truly respect yourself, your word starts to matter. You begin to treat your own promises like sacred contracts. And suddenly, discipline doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like integrity. The truth is, most people don't lack discipline. They lack self-trust. They've broken so many promises to themselves that their subconscious no longer believes they'll follow through. They say they'll start on Monday and don't. They say they'll wake up early and hit snooze. They say they'll quit the junk food and they cave by the weekend. And each time they do, it chips away at their self-respect. They begin to see themselves as unreliable, as weak, as inconsistent. And when you believe that about yourself, it's hard to act any other way. That belief becomes your identity. But here's the good news. Identity can change. It doesn't change by thinking differently. It changes by behaving differently. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you rebuild that trust. Every time you follow through, especially when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable, you send a message to your mind, I can count on me. And that's where real power begins. You see, discipline isn't about being rigid or obsessive. It's about honoring yourself. It's about deciding that your goals, your vision, your future are worth the effort. When you respect yourself, you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop waiting for someone else to push you. You become your own standard, your own fuel, your own accountability. It's no longer about what others expect from you. It's about what you expect from yourself. Because you know the truth, no one is coming to save you. No one can give you discipline. No one can hand you confidence. Those are things you earn. You earn them by showing up for yourself day after day, regardless of how you feel. That's what the top 1% understand. They've trained themselves to act in alignment with their values, not their moods. And the more they act in alignment, the deeper their self-respect grows. They don't just talk about excellence, they live it. Not because it's easy, but because they refuse to abandon themselves. That's what real discipline looks like. It's not grinding all day. It's not punishing yourself. It's doing what you said you would do, especially when no one else is watching. It's waking up early because you said you would. It's putting in the reps because you committed to the process. It's eating clean because your future matters more than your cravings. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. And it changes everything. Because once you start living in alignment, your self-image changes. You stop seeing yourself as who starts and quits. You stop seeing yourself as average. You begin to carry yourself differently. You begin to trust your instincts, your work ethic, your resilience. You walk into rooms with presence. You speak with conviction, not because of arrogance, but because you have evidence. Evidence that you follow through. Evidence that you do the hard things. Evidence that you show up. That inner confidence doesn't come from outside validation. It comes from within, from the way you live, from the way you show up for yourself, from the standards you refuse to lower. If you want to build discipline, just focus on habits. Focus on self-respect. Ask yourself, do I treat my word like it matters? Do I follow through when it's hard? Do I honor my commitments to me the same way I honor commitments to others? Because if you keep putting everyone else's priorities above your own, you will always live on empty. But when you start treating yourself like someone worth fighting for, discipline becomes natural. Not easy, but natural, because now it's personal. Now it's about becoming the kind of person you can be proud of. And that kind of pride, that's the fuel that turns temporary motivation into lifelong transformation. One of the most underestimated forces in shaping discipline is your environment. People often blame themselves for a lack of willpower or motivation. They ignore how much their surroundings are silently influencing their behavior. You can have the best intentions, the clearest goals, even a detailed plan, but if you're living in an environment that constantly pulls you away from those intentions, you'll fail over and over again. Not because you're weak, but because you're fighting against an invisible current. Discipline doesn't live in a vacuum. It's either reinforced or eroded by everything around you. If you're not intentionally designing your environment to support your highest self, it will quietly become your greatest enemy. Look at the top 1%, the truly disciplined. They don't just rely on willpower. They engineer their environment so that doing the right thing becomes easier and doing the wrong thing becomes harder. Their home is a space of order, not chaos. Their phone isn't buzzing with endless notifications. Their fridge is filled with fuel. Kids, not temptation. Their schedule is structured to protect deep work, not invite distraction. They don't wait to be triggered. They eliminate the triggers before they show up because they understand that most failure doesn't happen from one big decision. It happens from being constantly exposed to a series of tiny, undisciplined moments that feel harmless until they pull you completely off track. Your environment includes more than your physical space. It includes the people around you, the conversations you entertain, the noise you allow in, the digital clutter you scroll through, and the energy you surround yourself with. If you're constantly around people who make excuses, who mock discipline, who are addicted to comfort and chaos, it's only a matter of time before their standards lower yours. Not because you're trying to copy them, but because energy is contagious. Standards are contagious. Habits are contagious. If you want to raise your game, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is change who you're around and what you're exposed to. The disciplined choose proximity wisely. They don't allow access to people who drain them. They choose friends who challenge them, mentors who sharpen them, and spaces that elevate them. And it's not just about people. It's about friction. One of the smartest ways to build discipline is to reduce the friction for good habits and increase the friction for bad ones. If you want to wake up early, put your alarm across the room. If you want to work out, set your clothes out the night before. If you want to stop binging social media, delete the apps or block the sites during work hours. These are simple moves. They make all the difference. Because when the environment makes the right choice easier and the wrong choice harder, you're no longer relying on willpower. You're using design. And design is far more sustainable than discipline alone. Most people never take the time to audit their environment. They never pause and ask, is this space supporting my best self or sabotaging it? And so they continue the cycle of failure, blaming themselves. The real issue is that their surroundings make failure almost inevitable. But once you shift your awareness and take control, you realize how much power you actually have. You can shape your space to reflect your future. You can arrange your day to prioritize growth. You can create a routine that limits distractions and amplifies focus. You can start playing defense and start playing offense with your surroundings. Your environment is either training you or draining you. It's either pushing you closer to your goals or pulling you further away. It doesn't just influence your discipline, it defines it. Because no matter how strong your mindset is, if your environment is set up to distract or derail you, eventually it will. And the opposite is also true. Even if your mindset is shaky, the right environment can protect you, guide you, and help you win. Discipline doesn't start with the alarm clock. It starts with the world you've built around you. Every object, every voice, every sound, every app, it's either helping you rise or making it easier to fall. So take full ownership, audit everything, shift the layout of your room, clear the noise from your schedule, cut the negative energy, organize your life to reflect the version of you you're becoming, not the one you're trying to escape. When your environment becomes an extension of your standards, discipline becomes your default. And once that happens, you don't have to push yourself every day. Your world begins to pull you in the right direction automatically. The difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck often comes down to one choice, whether they avoid pain or embrace it. Everyone experiences pain. The difference is some people choose their pain and others are crushed by the pain they didn't choose. The top 1%, the truly disciplined, focused, and fulfilled, have learned something most people run from. You voluntarily walk into discomfort. When you deliberately choose your struggle, you take control of your life. You stop being a victim of pressure and start becoming the architect of your strength. That's the real transformation. When life gets easier, but when you get tougher, on purpose. Pain is a part of life. There's no avoiding it, but most people live reacting to pain instead of using it. They avoid the workout and suffer from poor health. They avoid difficult conversations and suffer from broken relationships. They avoid discipline and suffer from regret. The pain of avoidance always shows up somewhere, usually deeper, heavier, and more damaging than the pain they were running from. Those who grow, those who dominate their space, those who build the habits that last, they flip the script. They say, if I'm going to feel pain anyway, I'm going to choose the kind that makes me stronger. They pick up the weight. They confront the hard truth. They sit in silence. They say no when their old self would have said yes. They fast when their body screams for comfort. They push through the wall when their mind says quit. And in those choices, day after day, they become something most people never touch: powerful. Discipline and pain are tied together. You can't separate them. But the key is this voluntary pain gives you the upper hand. When you choose your discomfort, you change the narrative. It's no longer something being done to you. It's something you're walking into with intention. That intention turns pain into fuel. It becomes the weight that breaks the weak version of you and sculpts the stronger one underneath. You become dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in the most beautiful way. You become the kind of person who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't run from chaos, who doesn't crack when it gets heavy. Because you've trained your nervous system. You've built armor in the fire of discomfort. And here's the deeper truth. When you choose your pain, you build self-trust. You show yourself that you can do hard things and not fall apart. That you can sit with your cravings, your fears, your uncertainty and still stay grounded. That you don't need to escape life with numbing, scrolling, blaming, or hiding. That you can face what others run from and rise through it. That kind of confidence is built, not gifted. And it's built through pressure, through repetition, through fire. The strongest people you know didn't get there by chance. They got there by choosing pain on purpose, repeatedly. Not because they're addicted to suffering, because they understand this universal law: the pain you avoid becomes the prison you live in, and the pain you face becomes the power you carry. There's beauty in the burn. There's clarity in the tension. There's growth in the stretch. Every time you lean into what's hard, you stretch your capacity, you raise your threshold, you expand your identity. What used to break you becomes normal. What used to scare you becomes routine. And over time, the very things you once ran from become the training ground for your greatness. That's the secret. Not just to discipline, but to life. The more pain you choose, the less power pain has over you. And soon, once felt impossible becomes part of your rhythm. You build a life not around ease, but around meaning, around strength, around resilience. So don't wish for life to be easier. Don't pray for less pain. Pray for more courage. Build more strength. Choose the hard path. Pick the cold shower. Take the longer route. Do the reps. Speak the truth. Turn off the noise. Sit with the emotion. Not because it's fun, but because it's freedom. Freedom is earned through struggle. When you make that struggle your own, nothing outside of you can own you. You become grounded, unshakable, relentless. You turn pain into power, not because pain disappears, but because you finally stopped running from it. And the moment you do that, you become the kind of person who doesn't just endure life, you shape it.